Hi, moms. I'm on here today to talk to you about your frequently asked questions about organization and planning. Some of the questions that we have pop up in the group quite a bit. So we're going to talk about those and why certain families choose the things that they choose to do. If you have any questions throughout the video, feel free to ask them. If I miss them, if I don't see them through the video, I will try to go back and I'll answer any comments later on. So when it comes to planning, Master Books really gives you a solid starting place, and then you can build on that to make your year as customizable really as you choose. Some families choose to work straight from the books, and others change things up a bit. So we're going to talk about some of the different options. Before we really jump into all the different things that there are, I first want to talk about Master Books copyright. So just so everyone is aware, Master Books copyright allows for you to make copies for your immediate family in your own household of any of the curriculum. So for instance, if you had two students that wanted to do Introduction to Logic, you could go ahead and you could purchase one curriculum set of Introduction to Logic. And then you could go ahead and you could make copies of the student text, and you could make copies of the teacher guide with the worksheets for your second student to use. So you are free to do that. So sometimes people will have the students share the text, and then they'll make copies of the worksheets. So really your options are that you could get one set and you could make copies, or you could go ahead and you could get one set plus an additional teacher guide. So that way your second student, your two students would be sharing the text, and then your second student would have their own book with the worksheets in it. Or you could go ahead and you could get two complete sets. So whatever works best for your family. The other option that we have people do often is order the PDF. So if you wanted to order the PDF, that also allows you to print out as many copies as you would like for your immediate family. Now, I do want to say that this is for your immediate family that's inside of your household. So this is not for co-op use, okay? If you're using the curriculum in a co-op, you're going to need to make one purchase per student. So for instance, you could choose to get the one student text and make copies of it, but you're still going to have to make a purchase for each student. So sometimes when people do it this way, they'll purchase the PDF for each of the students and make copies from the book, because the PDF is slightly cheaper than the book itself. So that's really up to you how you want to do it. But remember that when you're using it for anybody outside of your immediate family, you're going to need to make a purchase for each individual student. Okay, so that kind of leads us into the question of printing my own books or purchasing the physical books. So this really is just dependent on your family situation and what works best for you. Some people do choose to purchase the PDF and print at home instead of purchasing the physical books. It's the exact same product that you're getting when you purchase the PDF as what you get with the physical book. So you're not missing any content or anything like that. The PDF is really a great option for international customers because they don't have to worry about paying the high shipping costs for shipping things overseas. We also have some families with multiple students that choose to go this route. So for instance, they know that they're going to have 3 or 4 or 5 students taking the same course. So it ends up making sense financially for them to purchase the PDF once, and then each time a student goes through it, they print it out. The PDFs are the upfront cost is a little bit cheaper than what you're going to pay for the physical books, but don't forget to take into account your cost of printing. You're going to have to think about the paper, the ink, whatever binding you choose if you choose to bind your books, and your time. Remember that your time is valuable. What you have to offer to your family is very valuable. If you have questions on laser printers versus inkjet printers, what the best option to go with is, those questions are really best for a general homeschooling group, because you can get a lot of feedback there from lots of moms that are, homeschool moms are printing a lot of material. But in this group, we try to keep the conversation more geared toward actual Master Books material and resources. So if you have questions about printing, definitely do that in another group, because you can get lots of awesome feedback on what the best option is, and you can even get information on how much it's going to cost you per page. And if you're wanting to know how many pages are in each book, you can find that on the product page. Under the additional information, it'll give you the amount of pages in each book. So if you want to calculate that into your cost before you make a purchase, you can do that. Other things that people do with the PDF is sometimes they don't print everything. Sometimes they're having their students read directly from a tablet, and then they're just printing the worksheets. Another option is you can have your student read from the tablet and even do their work on the tablet. There are certain programs that allow your students to write directly on the tablet, and you can save those pages. I know that we did a video in the past about this, so after I'm done with this video, I'll go through, I'll link that video, so if anybody's interested in that as an option, you can use that. So I think that kind of went over the differences and why certain families choose to do the PDF. Sometimes it makes financial sense for certain families to do that, and sometimes certain families say, hey, it's not worth the hassle, I'd just rather have the physical books. Next, we're going to talk about binding. This is something that is asked about quite frequently. The questions are, should I leave the book intact? Should I tear my pages out? Should I have the binding cut off? If I do remove the pages, now what do I do with them? So first, let's talk about leaving the book intact. This is the choice that the majority of the families using Master Books choose. Okay, a major goal of Master Books is to eliminate as many friction points as possible for homeschool families. This is why the books were created in a very open and go format, so that way parents don't have to do a lot of pre-planning or organizing. We have been working with printing companies a lot over the last year or so in order to provide the best product possible, as well as have great turnaround time on the printing. So we don't want to have customers waiting for a really long time for a product to become available just because it's sitting at the printer. So that's taken into account with the choices made on printing and with printing companies. So I do want to talk about the lay flat binding. Here it is. The lay flat binding that we have now on a lot of the books. So when books are going for reprint, they're getting this new binding, which allows your student, let me show you. When you have a book normally, what it used to be like, you can see when it would lay on the desk, it would kind of pop up. And so sometimes parents were saying, my student is having a hard time writing because when they get close to the binding, it's popping up, and so it's irritating to them. So this new binding that we have, let me show you how it works. You're going to take your book and you're going to bend it all the way back like this. You're going to have your covers touch, and then you're going to essentially break your binding just like this. You're going to press it back all the way. Okay, now when you lay it, your student can write on a flat book. Okay, so this is really like a major game changer for a lot of families, because there's a lot of people who would like the convenience of keeping things in one book, but they also have students that struggle writing on a page that curves. So this allows you to have both things, okay? You can keep it all together and your student can write on a flat surface. Sorry, I have notes to kind of keep me on track here. One, let's see here. Now, so I'm going to take a picture later and I'll show you a picture so you can see the difference between the old binding and the new binding and how it makes such a big difference. Let's talk about the tearing the pages out and when you have loose pages. All of our teacher guides and our consumable books are 3-hole punched and they're perforated, okay? So everything that you would be using that's consumable already has 3 holes in it. It already is perforated to make it easy for you. If you are wanting to tear the pages out and you're having issues with them coming out cleanly, you can go ahead and take an X-Acto knife, open scissors, a utility knife, and just run it down the perforation line, and then they'll remove a lot easier. Just be careful. Make sure you're really careful when you're doing that. It's also been found that it's easier if you tear from the back, so you're tearing from the left instead of tearing from the right. Okay, a lot of people have better success with that. And make sure you're not trying to tear out too many pages at once. You can even take your book to an office supply store and have them cut the entire binding off. They will go ahead and do that for you. It's usually a very inexpensive thing that you can do, and it eliminates a lot of work for you. So if you decide that you want your books to be completely taken apart, you don't want to keep them together, you can take them to an office supply store. They'll cut the binding off, and now you have all the loose pages. Now, some families choose to do loose pages for a couple of different options. One of their reasons is to have it completely lay flat. And another reason is so that way students don't become overwhelmed. Some students look at this book right here and they go, oh no, and they shut down. So this can cause a little bit of a shutdown with certain students. And so if you know that your child struggles with that, if you know they're going to have language and math and science and history, and that's a lot of books in front of them, if that's a struggle for them, then something that you can do is have the binding removed. And that's why a lot of families do that, because now your student only has a couple pages in front of them that they need to do, not a whole bunch of thick books. So once you have the pages tore out, what are you going to do with them? Some families are using a binder, a simple binder. Nothing like over the top spectacular. This is my daughter's dictionary, so I don't have an actual curriculum book in here, but they'll just use a binder. And remember, the pages are already 3-hole punched, so you can easily just stick them right into your binder. It makes it really easy to have your pages flat. You can take them out, you can put them back in, whatever works best for your family. And so you can decide if you want your student to work directly in there or if you want to pull out the pages each week or each day. However, whatever your organization is that you try to do. If you are wanting a completely lay flat book, but you want to have it bound still, something that a lot of people do is they'll take it to the office supply store, they'll have the binding cut off like I mentioned before, and then they'll go ahead and do spiral binding. So you have two options with spiral binding. You can either spiral bind your side or you can spiral bind the top. If you spiral bind the top, then it's not, you don't have the spiral in the way when you're writing on the side of the book. So that's another thing that some people have done. Another thing that people do when they tear out pages is they'll put them in manila folders or in some type of a folder system, either by day or by week throughout the year. Sometimes people will do it all at the beginning of the year and have it all laid out. Sometimes people do it weekly or even monthly, so that way their student just gets one folder per day or one folder per week. So this is, once again, just up to you how you want to implement this. It's really just endless, the options. You get to pick whatever works best for your family. Now, I do want to talk about loose leaf directly from Master Books. We've had this question before, so I want to address it. It's an option that we have looked into, and for the time being, we're going to continue just offering the books bound. So for right now, we're not going to add the loose leaf option, but if you wanted that, once again, you can take it to an office supply store, and it's pretty inexpensive for them to cut the binding off for you. Okay, I think we went over leaving books bound, taking them apart, some of the options. A lot of families choose to keep them bound because of just the ease. It just makes it really simple. So next we're going to talk about the format of the courses. This is something else that sometimes people will ask about. Every one of our courses comes in one of two ways. Some of the elementary courses, like math lessons for a living education and language lessons for a living education, these are all in one books, okay? There's no teacher guide that accompanies them. Everything that you need to teach level 5 language arts, everything for the teacher and everything, it's all included in this one book. In the front, you're going to have some notes to the teacher. You're going to have the assignment sheet. You're going to have all the worksheets in the middle for the student. And then in the back, you're going to have some additional helps and things for you. So there's nothing else. This does have a reading book that goes along with it, but there's no teacher guide that's needed as well. But then we have a lot of our other courses that we have. I'll show you. I already showed you Logic. So Logic has the student text. This is your student book, which is where all their reading material is at. And then there is the teacher guide that goes with it, okay? Some other courses that are like this are like the God's Design series. Really, most of the curriculum, once you hit upper elementary into middle and high, you're going to have the two sets where you have your student text and you have your teacher guide. The teacher guide essentially includes anything that you would not just automatically hand to your student. This is what you're going to want to look through and make the decision on what do you want to keep and what do you want to give to your student. So included in the teacher guide, you're going to have any notes to the teacher. You're going to have the assignment sheets that say what to do every single day. You're going to have the worksheets, any quizzes or tests that are included. It'll have the answer key. So any of that material that you as the parent, as the teacher, are going to make the decision on how you want to implement it, that is what you're going to find in every teacher guide, okay? So this is the consumable material, whereas the other book is just the reading material. Many people choose to just tear out the answer keys that are in the back and then give the teacher guide to their student at that point. That's, once again, where Master Books kind of gives you a starting place, and then you customize it to fit your family. Okay, and then the last subject I think that I have to talk about today is planners. We're getting a lot of questions about planners recently. And I'm going to be honest, I think you could get lost in the world of planners. There are so many planners. Everybody has a different, like, best method of how to plan things. So our courses all come with a basic, get it done, 180-day, 36-week schedule in the front. Everything is laid out for you, so you don't have to do any planning if you choose not to, okay? So let's kind of look at this for a minute. If you look at the planners, there is the due date that you can put in here. There's a check mark for when it's completed, and then there's a grade box that you can use. So essentially, if you didn't want to do other planning, this has got it all included, and you wouldn't have to do anything else. So those pages are customizable, so you can kind of make them work as works for your family. That's available in every single course. If you use the included schedule, the courses are very open and go. You can honestly receive your box in the mail and begin immediately that day. It's just so clearly laid out exactly what to do every single day. It tells you exactly what pages to read, which book to get those pages from, everything that you need. But if you love planners, or if you would like to customize something, you're totally able to do that, but it's definitely going to take some more work on your part, okay? Because you're going to have to take the information and now you're going to have to put it into whatever plan that you have decided to use. Some people choose to type up their own Excel or Word document and essentially have like maybe a week snapshot printout of what their child is going to do in every single subject. So that way their child can say, okay, on Monday, I'm going to do this in language, this in math, this in history, this in science, instead of having it in the book individually. And then there's other people who are wanting a planner, like an actual planner, and they'll write into the planner exactly what their child should do every single day. So some people are using a student planner or a parent planner or a combination of both. Once again, this is where Master Books kind of gives you a starting place. You don't actually have to plan out exactly what to do every single day, but if you want to incorporate a planner, you're going to have to take that information and essentially input it into what you're doing. So you can start with what Master Books has and then build from there to make it work for your family. I will say that currently we do not have any planners. We're not expecting to produce a planner. So when you're wanting to look for people's recommendations for planners, this is another thing that would be very good for a local homeschooling group or a general homeschooling group. So that way you can find out what people really like, what planners they prefer, and why they prefer those planners. While we do not have a planner, we are working on producing a permanent record book. So we're really excited about this, and we are expecting it to be out by September 1st this year. This is going to be a way for you to kind of keep all of your school records in one spot as a snapshot, so you can kind of see what your kids have done, how they've done in those courses, and what you would like to do. So that's kind of what we have coming out soon. Like for me personally, the way that I keep my records is at the end of the year, I throw all my kids' books into a box, tape it up, I label the year, and it gets put up in the attic. Well, that's great because I have my records available to me whenever, but if I have this permanent record on my shelf, it's easy for me to access exactly what my kids have done all in one place. So that's kind of something that we're really excited about coming out. So keep an eye out for that for more information. We're expecting that out by September 1st. Okay. I do want to mention, whenever you're talking about record keeping or anything like that, make sure you check with HSLDA and confirm that you are following all of your state laws and how they expect you to keep track of what you're doing. Okay, I think we've gotten through all of the major organization and planning questions that we regularly see in the group. If you have any questions that I didn't think to cover, go ahead and ask them, and I will try to answer them in the comments. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you kind of an overview of what I do for my kids, so you can see how we've customized Master Books plans to work in our homeschool. I've told everybody this in the past. I'm really type A. I love organization, but I have learned to embrace the simplicity that Master Books brings into our homeschool. So let's look at what I have. First off, my kids do everything in the books. So I don't rip anything out. Well, I will say I rip out the answer keys. I do that. So I take the answer keys out, and any, like in math, the manipulative pages, or in language arts, the reference pages. So my kids work directly out of the book. This is my daughter's book. And what I do is I don't plan either. Every day they open up their book and they see on their assignments what they're supposed to do next. When they do it, they date the date that they did it, and then when I check it, I go through and I mark it off with a check mark. So that's essentially how we do our planning for the year. Pretty simple. We're very open and go. Another thing that I do to make it really simple is we keep these little tabs in the book. Whoop, wrong way. We keep these little tabs in the book, so that way whenever they finish, like when she finishes this page, she'll move it to the next page, and it just keeps it really easy so she knows exactly where to turn to throughout the year. So that's what my kids work out of. All their books are all together. I did say that I tear out the manipulatives and things, so I'll show you. Each of my children has a reference binder. In here, they have a pencil thing, they have a notebook, and then they have any materials that they will need for their courses. Some of this stuff is from our files, like this feeling wheel is found in our files, but then you'll find they have like language. This is from her language book for this year. So all of her materials for referencing will be in here. So when she has a question, she can come and look in her reference binder before she comes and asks me. But then if she can't find something in here, she's welcome to come and ask me. I also keep the copy work pages in here and page protectors. So any copy work that she needs to do, she can do it straight from here. And then math is also in here as well. So each of my kids have a reference binder like that. Pretty simple. It doesn't have to get pulled out every day, but if they have questions and they're working independently and I'm not available right that second, they can go ahead and look in here first. The answer keys go in my binder. This binder's a little bigger than what I need, but I already had it. So in here, I just keep track of, I have each subject organized by these colorful ones, and then when you open them up, so like when you go to math, then I have 3 different math levels going on right now. So I have math level 3 answer key, math level 4 answer key, and math level 5 answer key. I also keep the tabs just like my kids do, so that way I can easily go to wherever they're at in the book. So I'm not trying to find the page again. This is the dictionaries. So they're doing create your own dictionary. So I have one in basic language skills and I have 2 in language lessons 4 this year. So they each are making their own dictionary. They each have their own binder with their dictionary included. And behind their dictionary, I put the spelling boxes for language. So that way they're easy to get to whenever they're assigned to do their spelling boxes. That is really, for the most part, that's my organization. It's pretty simple. I'll show you my shelves. These shelves right here, this is where we keep our books that we're working from. So we have these cube shelves, and then I just put these file boxes in them. Language arts takes up 2 boxes between the dictionaries and the books and everything, but for the most part, then it's 1 subject per box. So we have math, history, science, and electives. So that just keeps everything organized really easily. Whenever they finish a subject, it goes down here in these bins, so that way I know that I need to check it. Their binders go on this box right here, and then there's extra paper over there. But that's our organization. Pretty simple. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It doesn't take a lot of work. I sat down and one day pulled the pages out that I needed, stuck them in my binder, and that was really it. So Master Books has made my life a lot easier when it comes to planning and getting everything ready for the school year. So I hope that was helpful for everybody today. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, and I pray that you have a blessed day. Thanks. Bye.